Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you Sunday, October 23rd. The year's 2022. Let's talk trading, weekly open and gap. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Let me just remind you, risk management, so important. Never lose more than you're willing to lose on any one particular trade. What a gap we had today. It was huge. But you can see we have filled the gap. But price opened on this broker at 13.93. And the close on this broker last week was at 13.05. So we're talking 93 pip gap, and it filled it. Oh, it was nice. And as you can see here, we've got some other pairs that had some huge gaps too that have not been filled. Only thing I didn't do, should have bet the ranch. Seeing that huge gap, I just put on a small trade and collected the lion's share. I didn't ride it all the way down to the gap fill because I normally don't trade on the Sundays. But sometimes when you see an opportunity, you have to go for it. But I mean, I said I could have bet the ranch. I could have maybe just put on a McGilla trade, you know, something like 10 lots, $100 a pip or so. But that was just, it was just bagging. So yeah, that was a nice way to start off the week. But you know, if you have a plan, it's usually best to stick with it. But you have to be flexible. Is something I used to always say was, you got to trade what you see. And that was just ripe. It really was a nice ripe trade. As you can see, we actually got down into the opening range for the month, and you can see prices now moving up through the launch pad that I like to call. And so far we're 991 pips off the yearly low. We're 2177 below the yearly open on the pound. And we had an inside bar 4 days ago. As you can see here, we almost touched the top, but we didn't quite break out. So we're still in that inside bar range. The range on the day so far, this is just crazy. As I said, if you look at these numbers, 109, but just look at some of these numbers here. Look at the yen, 420 pips. The pound yen, 434. I almost traded the pound yen because I looked at it here. Let's just switch to the 1 hour chart. I saw this gap up, but wasn't so sure since I haven't traded it, but I was really thinking, but probably a good thing I didn't, because you can see here it ran up huge, 77 off the high and 81 above the open, so that's over 150 pips. That could have been a huge loss right there. But then you can see here what happened in the third hour. It dropped like a rock, and then it's come all the way back and then some. So anybody trading the beast, the pound yen, you were definitely rewarded. And looking at the dollar yen, that too had a nice move down, only to recover. And we're, just so you know, we're almost 8 hours into the trading day here. But I mean, from the high open to low, you can see how many are over 100. It's just almost insanity. And so if we put this back to daily, you can see 109 pip range there. The buy zone, anybody who took the short, if you took the long, you got burned. But when I see gaps like that, I'm only thinking one thing, and that's gap fill. Rat zone is large enough, but what's really interesting is we've got the lower rat zone is right here at the, we've got the high, previous day's high right inside that rat zone. So you can see things are definitely slightly weird today. But also, if you notice, we had a big return bar. We came back to that open. We had a bigger return bar here, and we came back to that open. And we got a return bar here, and it looks like price wants to go back up there. And once again, as I mentioned, we're going through that 40 launch pad, and it was to be had. Bambino flex indicator indicated a long. Near the pivot point was a long, but we're nowhere near the pivot. As you can see here, we're 124 pips away from the pivot, nowhere near it. As far as the weekly pivot, we almost hit it. We're about 30, missed it by 33 pips, so that's not an almost hit, really. That's still quite the miss, but who knows, maybe we'll take it out this week. It wouldn't surprise me. And we have already taken out this month's. Upper wick zone got all the action here. You can see here once, actually cracked through the lower wick zone only by a bit. This is one of those ones where you might have gotten burned thinking it would come into the body of the candle, but it just reversed. So it's only about a 10 pip range here on this wick zone, so you shouldn't have gotten burned too bad. And then if you just reversed with the flow, once again, you would have made up for that loss and then some. Weekly range, high minus open, went to 0%. So we need a couple, at least I'd say 200 more pips a weekly range. So it's either got to go over, make new highs and or new lows. We didn't break out at a high yet. We didn't break out at a low. High to close, 60 for rats. Close the low, 49 for rats. So rat traders have been rewarded. Open the low, 95 for buy zone. High to open, only 14. So we'll just have to wait and see what else happens here. Looking at the Walmart lines, let me spread this out for you. Normally we don't trade on Sundays, but as you can see, 7, almost 8 hours into the trading, we've had some huge moves. So in an 80 pip range, an 83 pip range, a 30, a 20, and a couple of teeners, and now just 49 on this candle. I'll just have to wait and see what happens next. But let's see, we have a high of 1353 this hour, soon to be over. So there was a night 49 pips, and once again through the 40, hit the 50. So anybody trading the launch pad, there you have it. So much news is coming out on the pound. And we've got a lot. The Bank of Japan wants to intervene. The Bank of England's intervening. The U.S. banks, Bank of the U.S., the Fed, they're doing what they're doing. It's just driving the currency market crazy. I mean, you can see moves of 3, 4, 5 pips, but you have to be quick. I mean, you could be up 5 pips, and the next tick you're down 2 sometimes. So you can't really be greedy. And the thing about being greedy is you really have to define what being greedy is. So if you're looking and doing, say, some market analysis, chart analysis, technical analysis, whatever, and you think price is going to go to a certain place, and that's where you put your TP and you put your stop loss accordingly, then you have to go for it. And is that being greedy? No. But what might be considered greedy, if you're within, a handful of pips of your target and you're sitting on a huge win and price looks like it's starting to reverse or it's stalling, don't be ashamed to exit out and maybe miss those last 5 pips. Maybe if you would have waited, you would have got it. Maybe you might have had to wait 2 hours to get it. Maybe price would have reversed and then come back and finally taken it out. So, there's one thing about being patient, another thing about being greedy, another thing is being prudent and really managing the money. So you have to weigh all those factors in. In fact, I'm thinking about maybe on a couple of 3x5 cards is write some money management rules that I think I might want to start observing. Just to manage the money more so than managing or trading what I see, or trying to work my way out of a loss. Sometimes that works, actually probably more times than not it works, but it's just those 1 or 2 times that can just really tie you up, for an entire trading day sometimes, especially if you're, if it's like your first or second trade that's got you tied up. Sometimes it's just best to cut it. You can always re-enter. In fact, I saw something where he said, you put a trade in and then it stopped out, chances are it's going to come back and put that trade back on, because chances are the second time it's going to do what you expected it to do the first time. Because when you place a trade, you have expectations. You have expectations that you're going to win. But what you might not have is true expectations where price might stop. And that's why we always say, look left. Right here, we have a higher low trade that just triggered. And that would have been good for, it looks like about 3-4 pips or more. Let's see, low was 41, the open was 46. Yeah, you could have 4 or 5 pips taking that trade off of that trigger right there. But as you can see, it snapped back real quick. So even though you might be wanting to, come all the way down maybe to the 25, it hasn't happened so far. You just have to be quick. You might say, okay, maybe you took 2 or 3 pips here. Let's, might want to load up and try it again. But, looking at the multimeter, it was all green. Now it's going back to red because it's the beginning of the hour. And actually, we're right near that H4 open. Frequency distribution, remember where we put in the highs and lows, usually what hours of the day. So we'll have to wait. We haven't expanded the range. And nothing new on the trade reminder. So, fellow traders, let's say I had one trader was having a problem with the dashboard. These brokers that have these dotted pairs and all, it drives me nuts, trying to code for all those things. But I got that worked out for that one trader. So, if you're having some issues with indicators, don't hesitate to contact me. Let me know what the problem is, and hopefully I can work it out for you. So, fellow traders, I really hope you had a fun and safe weekend, and I'm wishing you a profitable trading week this week. And when you're trading, always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.